Hare Krishna. Welcome to our continued reading of the Krishna book. This is Krishna book, the second part of the Krishna book. We're on the fourth class. We're picking up at the 36th verse. We're nearing the end of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, but they go on. And we'll start with some kirtan.
Oh, kirtan magic. Right. Okay, so let's come into our comfortable seats. Take a deep breath in through your nose, Stella. Open your mouth side out. Opening prayers, calling out with humility this to receive mercy, knowledge, wisdom. Deep breath in. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Manchakopatrugyascha Kripa Sindhuveva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasade Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Sing together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nittai ki, Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki, Harinam Sankirtan ki, Ramak Bhaktiya Samyal Bhyan ki, Shastra Study Group ki, Hari Hari Bol.
Om Jnanatimirantasya Jnananjana Shlakaya Chakshuranmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripastubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna. All right, Hare Krishna. We're going to start in the 36th chapter. We've been hearing about separation, a lot about separation from Krishna, because we're hearing about the gopis, and the last chapter was actually just called "The Gopis as Feelings of Separation." And as Srila Prabhupada has been writing about, one of the main topics to understand is that the mood of service that Lord Chaitanya has come to give is specifically this mood of service and separation, because it's a mode that allows for the love for Krishna to actually become even more intense, right? So this is a very deep thing. So how it is that feeling separation from Krishna is actually even deeper than feeling that you're with him. These are eternal associates of Krishna. They're never, I mean, no one on the highest level is ever actually separate from Krishna. What to speak of a pure devotee? You know, they're always with him, but the Leela is that they're hankering for him. They want him and they're missing him. And all these things remind them of him, and they wish they could be with him. And, you know, it's that hankering that actually it deepens the relationship even more. So let's take any reflections on that or anything else you heard. Separation. And keep that in mind as we near the end of Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. There's impending separation for everyone in Vrindavan. Yes.
I was thinking about the gopis longing for Krishna and how heartbreaking it seemed. And then in the last purport of Canto 10, chapter 35, text 26, it was so beautiful. It says, this verse definitely confirms that the so-called pain of the heartbroken gopis is actually great spiritual bliss. And that on the material platform, pain is pain. But on the spiritual platform, so-called pain is simply a different variety of spiritual ecstasy.
Wow.
And so it just felt like so much heartache, where you could just feel their longing and hankering, like you said. And so at first, in the beginning of these chapters, I felt so sad for the gopis, and I felt like they were so sad. But then I loved this flip of the description.
Yeah. That's the last verse of the 35th chapter.
Yeah.
The verse is,
35th, yeah.
Shri Shukadeva Goswami said, O king, thus during the daytime the women of Vrindavana took pleasure in continuously singing about the pastimes of Krishna. And those ladies' minds and hearts absorbed in him were filled with great festivity. Purport, this verse definitely confirms that the so-called pain of the heartbroken gopis is actually great spiritual bliss. On the material platform, pain is pain, period. But on the spiritual platform, so-called pain is simply a different variety of spiritual ecstasy. In the Western countries, people take pleasure in mixing different flavors of ice cream to produce wonderful combinations of flavor. Similarly, on the spiritual platform, Sri Krishna and his devotees expertly mix the flavors of spiritual bliss. And thus every day was a treat for the gopis. Yeah, we've been hearing how prema is like a river, and the two banks of the river that allow it to flow are separation and union. And you don't just have one, you have two. It's that constant movement back and forth that creates the flow of the river of prema.
What?
10, 35, 26.
Let me go back to the last part.
Thank you. Any other reflections on separation? Yeah.
I'll just say this isn't very profound other than like, once you start hearing about it, you like start seeing it everywhere. So I feel like all of the classes I've been in, whether it's your Shami or other people's classes, like this has been the theme and you hear it more. So I'm so grateful to have this class to really dive into this, because now it's like when you hear it in other places, like with Lord Jagannath, he went away for two, in the temple, he's away for 2 weeks. So like everybody's missing him, right? And the whole story of Rath Yatra with bringing Krishna back and pulling him back, like that separation. So it's really beautiful to have this context as we like dive into other parts of our practice and really appreciate and understand this idea of separation.
It's been coming up a lot because of Rath Yatra too. Rath Yatra is really about separation and reuniting. When we won't get to it necessarily in the immediate future, but later on in the 10th canto, in fact, it is 10th canto, verse 82 and 83. The residents of Vrindavan actually go to Kurukshetra, the Kurukshetra, where the battlefield is. It was a place of sacrifices and a holy place before the battle and after. And they go, and Krishna's there, who they haven't seen in so long. But Krishna is now a king. And it's a place where the mood is very different. He's served as a king, and he's surrounded by queens and courtiers and opulence and pomp and formality. And so they're with him, but they're not with him, because for them, Krishna is, peacock feathers in his hair, flute on his lips, dancing, making sidelong glances, casting, making jokes, swimming in the Yamuna River, playing. And he's not free to do that. So their whole hankering is to bring him back to Vrindavan. And that meeting actually increases their separation from him, because it's actually said by Radharani, it's not that I don't want to be here with you. I want you to come back to Vrindavan. And so that's a lot of what Rath Yatra is about. Some of us went to the New York Rath Yatra over the past weekend, and it's kind of Rath Yatra season, being the summertime. There's a kind of a Rath Yatra every weekend practically now, while the weather's nice. And it's a big part of our big festival in our canon of Vaishnav holidays. And that's why it holds the place it does. Rath Yatra and Jagannath Puri in general, like a place of separation from Krishna, actually. It's a very deep kind of yoga. Thank you. Yeah. Anything else? Anyone wants to reflect?
I was reflecting today, I was thinking about this today, and also from a conversation I was having with Amy today around how the gopis get together to talk about Krishna when they're separated from him, right? And how like for us, as we are not gopis, right? This we're aspiring devotees, and when we are in separation from Krishna, which is always, in some ways, and the power of association, and how your Gurudev Vaisheshri Das Prabhu was speaking this weekend around how if you want to know where someone's consciousness is, look at who they associate with. And that doesn't mean that there aren't amazing people that also aren't devotees or what have you, but when devotees get together, they talk about Krishna.
Yeah.
Right. So it brings our consciousness there. And our path and our practice is to become more and more Krishna conscious, right? So that we can remember our true nature and eventually go home back to Godhead, right? So, yeah, I was thinking about that, and how whether we are like very internally feeling that mood of separation, which, as you've just said, is a very high feeling, it is always there, just whether we're aware of it or not. And I find that I become more and more aware of that when I'm with devotees, and I also experience ecstatic joy and bliss and, feelings of acceptance and authenticity and in that same association.
Yeah. Yeah, we can see how important Sangha is because the most advanced devotees are always hankering for it and taking very careful advantage of it when it's there.
Mhm.
Yeah, in the 31st chapter, the gopis are singing songs of separation. They sing a famous verse.
You see it?
Tavakatamritang tapta jivanam kavpiriditang kalmashapaham shavanamangalang srimaratatam bhuvigranantiye pudidajana. They're singing to Krishna, but he's not there. They're saying, the nectar of your words and the descriptions of your activities are the life and soul of those suffering in this material world. These narrations transmitted by learned sages eradicate one's sinful reactions and bestow good fortune upon whoever hears them. These narrations are broadcast all over the world and are filled with spiritual power. Certainly those who spread the message of Godhead are most munificent. Munificent means generous.
Mhm.
It's the highest form of charity, they're saying. Because it, as they say, it actually eradicates the suffering. That's what they had. That's all they had. We saw they were like practically mad in separation. All they could do was recount, act out, speak his glories and words and pastimes, and feel connection with him through that deeply. And you're glorifying the process of being around other people who glorify Krishna because that immediately closes the gap.
Mhm.
That's there.
Mhm.
Tapta jivanam. Tapta means like burning, and one who is suffering from that burning in the material world has the burning experience relieved. According to the gopis here, that hearing about Krishna relieves the burning. That actually the fundamental problem we have is that we're actually divorced. We've turned away from Krishna, right? That's our problem. We've turned our way. Bhayam dvitiya pinivesha tasyat. Fear and all kinds of duality arises from turning away. And then once you turn back, things start to get better. But upon turning away, it's like if you turn away from the sun, turn your back to it, now you're in shadow. Now you're in an unnatural situation. So the whole material thing is a giant unnatural situation. And for one who is suffering in that nightmare, then hearing about Krishna actually alleviates the suffering. And then that's at the level of the conditioned soul. But the level of the pure soul, the eternally liberated soul, the soul in pure love of Krishna, they're always engaged in hearing and chanting about Krishna. And then for them, the spiritual distress of missing Krishna, which is actually another form of ecstasy, but that also becomes alleviated because they're hearing about him and their hearts become settled. Yeah. We heard over the weekend a beautiful class by His Grace Amarendra Prabhu talking about separation.
Mhm.
And he was saying that the nature of the love of the residents of Vrindavan was such that they couldn't not live without Krishna, but they could not die either because they were thinking that if Krishna, he said he'll come back to us. And if we are not here when he comes, then he will suffer. Therefore, we have to stay alive. So they were forced. He said the acharyas explained it to be like if there is a fire in a pen full of cows, but someone locks the door, then the fire remains, but nobody can get out. So the gopis and everybody in Vrindavan willingly remained in the fire of separation from Krishna, not leaving their bodies, simply because they thought it would cause him pain. So in many ways, we see their love for Krishna is actually put on a pedestal and deeply glorified because it is so intense and without conditions. And that's what they do. That's all they do when they're not around him is keep hearing and chanting. And that's the life and soul of the devotees. Jai. So on that note, let's take to it. Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Hey Krishna 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 Rakshama Krishna 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 Pahima Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava Rakshamam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava Pahimam. Jai Krishna Book Ki Jai. So we're on verse chapter 36. Kamsa sends Akrura for Krishna. Vrindavan was always absorbed in the thought of Krishna. Everyone remembered his pastimes and was constantly merged in the ocean of transcendental bliss. But the material world is so contaminated that even in Vrindavan, the asuras or demons tried to disturb the peaceful situation. Once, a demon named Arishtasura entered the village in the form of a great bull, with a gigantic body and huge horns, digging up the earth with his hooves. When the demon entered Vrindavan, the whole land appeared to tremble as if there were an earthquake. He roared fiercely, and after digging up the earth on the riverside, he entered the village proper. The fearful roaring of the bull was so piercing that some of the pregnant cows and women had miscarriages. Its body was so big, stout, and strong that a cloud hovered over its body, just as clouds hover over mountains. Arishtasura entered Vrindavan with such a fearful appearance that, just on seeing this great demon, all the men and women were afflicted with great fear, and the cows and other animals fled the village. The situation became very terrible, and all the inhabitants of Vrindavan began to cry, "Krishna, Krishna, please save us." Krishna saw that the cows were running away, and he immediately replied, "Don't be afraid, don't be afraid." He then appeared before Arishtasura and said, "You lowest of living entities, why are you frightening the inhabitants of Gokula? What will you gain by this action? If you have come to challenge my authority, then I am prepared to fight you." In this way, Krishna challenged the demon, and the demon became very angry by the words of Krishna. Krishna stood before the bull, resting his hand on the shoulder of a friend. The bull proceeded toward Krishna in anger. Digging the earth with his hooves, Arishtasura lifted his tail, and it appeared that clouds were hovering about the tail. His eyes were reddish and moving in anger. Pointing his horns at Krishna, he charged him just like the thunderbolt of Indra. But Krishna immediately caught his horns and tossed him away, just as a gigantic elephant repels a small inimical elephant. Although the demon was perspiring and appeared very tired, he took courage and got up. Again, he charged Krishna with great force and anger. While rushing toward Krishna, he breathed very heavily. Krishna again caught his horns and immediately threw him to the ground, breaking his horns. Krishna then began to kick his body, just as one squeezes a wet cloth on the ground. Being thus kicked by Krishna, Arishtasura rolled over and began to move his legs violently. Bleeding from the mouth and passing stool and urine, his eyes starting from their sockets, he passed to the kingdom of death. Let's look up, which demon this represents. The demigods and the celestial planets showered flowers on Krishna for his wonderful achievement. Krishna was already the life and soul of the inhabitants of Vrindavan. And after killing this demon in the shape of a bull, he became the cynosure of all eyes. Cynosure means the person or thing that is a center of attention or admiration. The cynosure of all eyes. With Balaram, he triumphantly entered Vrindavan village, and the inhabitants glorified him and Balaram with great jubilation. When a person performs some wonderful feat, his kinsmen and relatives and friends naturally become jubilant. Yes, so Arishtasura.
The bull demon represents the anarcha of pride arising from indulging in false religions invented by cheaters, which causes neglect of devotional service bhakti. Pride arising from indulging in false religions invented by cheaters, which I wonder what that means, which causes neglect of devotional service bhakti. What does that mean by cheaters, invented by cheaters?
Well, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said this mature world is a world of the cheaters and the cheated. So the exploiters and the exploited. So a cheater in this context is one who exploits, one who creates a false belief system to get some advantage. And then one who follows that then. Sure, a cult. How about the cult of like the idea that money will make you happy? How about that? It's a gigantic culture that we're supposed to swallow hook, line, and sinker.
Mhm,
You know, look how people behave as soon as they have a little bit of money. Look at what happens.
mhm,
It's like no matter what this quality of your character is, where you've come from, who you are, what your actions are, as soon as you have money, you're considered a big deal.
mhm,
This is like it's transparently obvious that that's our culture. That's what
mhm.
we're supposed to believe is important. And one who propagates that and therefore profits off of the idea that like maybe they have money and they profit off the idea that that makes them special. They're cheating. It's a form of it's a false religion. They've created a false idol and they worship it, you know,
Mhm.
or celebrity or some other phantasmagoria, some phantom illusory nonsense. And then one who like takes advantage of that. Oh, I have fame, I have beauty, I have money, whatever. I have, you know, I belong, I'm one of the chosen people, whatever it is. And then profits off of it
Mhm.
is a cheater. And everyone who goes along with it is cheated.
So it's not inherently that any of those six opulences, like money and beauty and knowledge, those aren't inherently bad, or it's the way that your relationship is to them.
Nothing
Or
is
how you
inherently bad.
use
It
it.
comes from Krishna. Yeah, they're Krishna Shaktis. They
Mhm.
belong to him. As soon as we say it's mine, then it's a problem.
Mhm.
And so that's a false religion, right? Some artificial power structure,
Mhm.
some ism. So it could be a political party, could be a gender construct, could be a family name, could be a class in the social structure, could be a race, could be a skin color. It's all nonsense as long as that's your belief system is based on all these designations. And the pride that arises from that, this is what was represented by Ashtasura. And according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we're hearing that that's all of that is just an impediment to bhakti. All of that is just an impediment. Janma Aishvarya Shruta Shibir Ede Manamadafman Naivad Hatipitatum Va Tvama Kinchana Gocharam. Kunti Maharani says, mother of the Pandavas, anybody who's intoxicated with their birth, their lineage, their wealth, their learning, intelligence, education, or their beauty, that person can't call out for you, Krishna. Not really. They can't really call out for you. Doesn't mean that as long as you have those things, you can't call out. One who is intoxicated,
Mhm.
for that person, they think they have something, and that something is where their attention is. They're not able to call out for you because they consider that they're not nothing. Only someone who realizes I'm insignificant, that person can call out. So Rishtasura is the false sense of having, I'm a really big deal. Everybody, I'm a really big deal. And that's just a big, huge burden to bhakti. And Krishna just killed it. Jai. There's actually a very amusing pastime associated with this in Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur's commentary, because the appearance of Radha Kund and Shama Kund in Vrindavan at the top of Govardhan Hill coincides with this pastime. Actually, Krishna kills the bull demon, and then he goes to have a nice dance with the gopis, and Radharani says, and I quote, "No, no, 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 no." There are 5 or 6 no's. Now, I'm not saying, Vishwanath is saying, no, you have killed a cow. This is a profoundly sinful activity. And Krishna's like, it was a demon. And she said, doesn't matter. It was in the form of a cow. You're now contaminated. You have to purify yourself. And so they're having this like very teasing exchange. And he says, oh yeah? And he gets a little bit proud. Oh yeah? I will summon all the holy waters right here. And he has the holy waters. I forget how he digs the hole, but he gets a pit to manifest, and he calls all the holy waters, or maybe it's just the Ganga or something, and comes in, he takes his bath in it. And then Radharani marshals all the gopis, and with their like bangles, they actually make another kund. They dig out the earth and excavate it, and all the holy waters personified come before her and say, what is it you wish us to do? We're just here to serve you. Even Krishna is here to serve you. You are actually the highest. Srimati Radharani, what can we do for you? And so they manifest a Kund. And so it's greater than the Shama Kund that Krishna manifested, it's Radha Kund. And so Radha and Krishna make up, and then they all have a big dance and play in the water. And that's when Radha Kund and Shama Kund manifested. And much later, Lord Chaitanya's pastimes, Vrindavan was kind of not really apparent. It's not really clear where it was, what happened, where we know the general vicinity. But Lord Chaitanya actually went on pilgrimage, and he went to the area of Vrindavan. And when he was there, he found a very out-of-the-way place, which was really just rice fields. And he asked the local villagers the name of the village because he felt something in his heart. And they indicated to him the name. And the name was something along the lines of Arishtasura. It was something like, I forget the exact name of it, but it was derived from Arishta's name. And Mahaprabhu realized this is where it had happened. And he dived into the rice paddy. Rice is, of course, in standing water. And because he realized with his transcendental intelligence, this is actually Radhakund and Shyamakund. This is where Krishna and Srimati Radharani had their pastimes. And later he indicated to his followers, his disciples, the Goswamis, I want you to excavate Radhakund and Shyamakund, and I want you to develop Vrindavan. I want you to protect these places of pastimes, and I want you to make it inhabitable and protect it and make them like sanctified again. Bring people to celebrate Krishna's pastimes here. So there's a whole lot of things that happen around Radhakund and Shyamakund, which is manifested around the slaying of this bull demon. Radharani said, no. Cow is sacred. You're contaminated. So it was after this incident that the great sage Narada disclosed to Kamsa the secret of Krishna. Narada Muni is generally known as Deva Darshana, which means that he can be seen only by demigods or persons on the same level with the demigods. But Narada visited Kamsa, who was not at all on the level of the demigods, and allowed Kamsa to see him. Of course, Kamsa also saw Krishna, what to speak of Narada Muni. But unless one sees the Lord or his devotees with purified eyes, one cannot derive the actual benefit. Of course, anyone who associates with a pure devotee derives imperceptible benefit, which is called agyata sukriti. One cannot understand how he is making progress, yet he makes progress by seeing the devotee of the Lord. Narada Muni's mission was to finish things quickly. Krishna appeared in order to kill the demons, and Kamsa was the chief among them. Narada wanted to expedite things. Therefore, he immediately approached Kamsa with all the real information. You are to be killed by the 8th son of Vasudeva, Narada told Kamsa. That 8th son is Krishna. You were misled by Vasudeva into believing that the 8th issue of Vasudeva was a daughter. Actually, the daughter was born to Yashoda, the wife of Nanda Maharaj, and Vasudeva exchanged his son for the daughter, so you were misled. Krishna is the son of Vasudeva, as is Balaram. Being afraid of your atrocious nature, Vasudeva has tactfully hidden them in Vrindavana out of your sight. Narada further informed Kamsa, Krishna and Balaram have been living incognito in the care of Nanda Maharaj. All the asuras, your companions who were sent to Vrindavan to kill different children, were killed by Krishna and Balaram. As soon as Kamsa got this information from Narada Muni, he took out his sharp sword and prepared to kill Vasudeva for his duplicity. But Narada pacified him. You are not to be killed by Vasudeva, he said. Why are you so anxious to kill him? Better try to kill Krishna and Balaram.
So Narada Muni is just like he's just an instigator in a lot of these. He just pops up in a pastime, instigates
all the
and
time.
then disappears again, and then pops up again.
All the time.
Instigates.
He's a little expediter.
Okay.
Better try to kill Krishna and Balaram. But in order to satisfy his wrath, Kamsa arrested Vasudeva and his wife and shackled them in iron chains. Acting on the new information, Kamsa immediately called for the Keshi demon and asked him to go to Vrindavan immediately to kill Balaram and Krishna. In actuality, Kamsa asked Keshi to go to Vrindavan to be killed by Krishna and Balaram and thus get salvation. Then Kamsa called for his expert elephant trainers, as well as the wrestlers Chanura, Mushtaka, Shala, Toshala, etc. And he told them, my dear friends, try to hear me attentively. At Nanda Maharaj's place in Vrindavana, there are 2 brothers, Krishna and Balaram. They are actually 2 sons of Vasudeva. As you know, I have been destined to be killed by Krishna. There is a prophecy to this effect. Now I am requesting you to arrange for a wrestling match. People from different parts of the country will come to see the festival. I will arrange to get those two boys here, and you will try to kill them in the wrestling arena. Wrestling matches are still enjoyed by people in northern India, and it appears from the statements of Srimad Bhagavatam that 5,000 years ago, wrestling was also popular. Kamsa planned to arrange such a wrestling competition and to invite people to visit. He also told the trainers of the elephants, "Be sure to bring the elephant named Kuvalyapida and keep him at the gate of the wrestling arena. Try to capture Krishna and Balaram on their arrival and have the elephant kill them." Kamsa also advised his friends to arrange to worship Lord Shiva by offering animal sacrifices and performing the sacrifice called Dhanur Yagya, and the sacrifice performed on the 14th day of the moon, known as Chaturdashi. This date falls 3 days after Ekadashi, and it is set aside for the worship of Lord Shiva. One of the plenary portions of Lord Shiva is called Kala Bhairava. This form of Lord Shiva is worshipped by demons who offer animals killed before him. The process is still current in India in a place called Vaidyanath Dham, where demons offer animal sacrifices to the deity of Kala Bhairava. Kamsa belonged to this demoniac group. He was also an expert diplomat, and so he quickly arranged for his demon friends to try to kill Krishna and Balaram. He then called for Akrura, one of the descendants in the family of Yadu, in which Krishna was born as the son of Vasudeva. When Akrura came to see Kamsa, Kamsa very politely shook hands with him and said, "My dear Akrura, actually I have no better friend than you in the Bhoja and Yadu dynasties. You are the most munificent person. So as a friend, I'm begging charity from you. Actually, I've taken shelter of you exactly as King Indra takes shelter of Lord Vishnu. I request you to go immediately to Vrindavan and find the two boys named Krishna and Balaram. They are the sons of Nanda Maharaj. Take this nice chariot, especially prepared for the boys, and bring them here immediately. That is my request to you. Now, my plan is to kill these two boys. As soon as they come in the gate, there will be a great elephant named Kuvalyapida waiting, and possibly he will be able to kill them, but if somehow or other they escape, they will next meet the wrestlers and be killed by them. That is my plan. And after killing these two boys, I shall kill Vasudeva and Nanda, who are supporters of the Vrishni and Bhoja dynasties. I shall also kill my father, Ugrasena, and his brother Devaka, because they are actually my enemies, and are hindrances to my diplomacy and politics. Thus I shall get rid of all my enemies. Jarasandha is my father-in-law, and I have a great monkey friend named Dvivida. With their help, it will be easy to kill all the kings on the surface of the earth who support the demigods. This is my plan. In this way, I shall be free from all opposition, and it'll be very pleasant to rule the world without obstruction. You may know also that Shambhara, Narakasura, and Banasura are my intimate friends, and when I begin this war against the kings who support the demigods, they will help me considerably. Surely I shall be rid of all my enemies. Please go immediately to Vrindavan and encourage the boys to come here to see the beauty of Mathura and take pleasure in the wrestling competition." After hearing this plan of Kamsa's, Akrura replied, my dear king, your plan is very excellently made to counteract the hindrances to your diplomatic activities, but you should maintain equilibrium, or the result of your activities may be fruitful or may not be fruitful. After all, man proposes, God disposes. We may make very great plans, but unless they are sanctioned by the supreme authority, they will fail. Everyone in this material world knows that the supernatural power is the ultimate disposer of everything. One may make a very great plan with his fertile brain, but he must know that he will be subjected to the fruits, misery and happiness. But I have nothing to say against your proposal. As a friend, I shall carry out your order and bring Krishna and Balaram here as you desire. After instructing his friends in various ways, Kamsa retired and Akrura went back to his home. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 36th chapter of Krishna. Kamsa sends Akrura for Krishna. Comments?
Yeah, good.
Narada Muni is lighting a fire. Now it's cooking.
Gosh, you can just really see the level of ego and
Violence.
and hatred
Honey.
inside of Kamsa.
He's going to murder his own father.
Yeah.
He's going to murder anybody who stands in his way.
Yeah.
And he's just naming it to his ally, Akrura.
Yeah.
Of course, Akrura is actually a devotee, as we'll see, but Akrura is forced by circumstance to work for a bad master.
Mm-hmm. Man proposes, God disposes.
Yeah, that's why he's like,
Mhm.
yeah,
Are you sure?
I wouldn't get too attached. Yeah, you know,
Maybe rethink this.
Don't hold your breath. So
It kind of makes you wonder if he even knows why he's so mad. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know how something can really rile you up, and then all of a sudden all these other things are sort of offshooting from your anger, and and then you get to that point where you're not even sure why you're angry or upset anymore. Like he's just so in his head
yeah,
and kind of out of control. And
he's
I can
insane. He's
kind of
lost it.
relate to that, on a human nature where just like sometimes our emotions get the best of us and we just lose
Yeah.
it.
And
A
you look at
less
yourself and you're like,
murderous way, but yes.
or you look at yourself, you're like, what's even going on right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Kamsa is really emblematic of that. He's actually insane because of his obsession. We'll hear about it in the following chapters. Kamsa actually can't stop thinking about Krishna. He's dreaming about him. He has nightmares about him all the time. Whether waking or sleeping, he's obsessed, completely obsessed. And he's got the kind of violent paranoid tendencies of somebody who is like given into the most selfish parts of his ego in pursuance of whatever his goals may be. So it's quite a scene.
Is it the obsession that he's worried that he's gonna be killed by Krishna, or just that there's somebody that's could be even more powerful than?
Well, both. Because the fact that Krishna keeps surviving is infuriating to him, but he has it on unimpeachable authority that he's going to die, and he's basically in denial. He's in denial that he has to die. Like he's just fighting it so hard, because for him, he is his body, and there's this like relentless thing of like, at any cost, I will fight this at any cost.
He's like the original evil queen in Snow White, that mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all. Like, to hear that there's anyone that is more powerful or will anyway, that's like, maybe this is origins of fairy tales.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all the Grimm fairy tales are,
The Grimm fairy tales.
Well,
there's demons and all.
Yeah,
he's representing part of the psyche, like
yeah.
the uncontrolled ego, false ego.
It is kind of wild how he can be meditating on Krishna all the time, but in a very different way than the devotees. Like, he's still meditating on Krishna. It's just a little twist to the
Yeah.
intention.
Yeah, his result isn't as good as the result of the devotees, because he just can't stand Krishna. Text. Any more comments? Okay. Chapter 37. Killing the Keshi demon and Vyomasura. After being instructed by Kamsa, the demon Keshi assumed the form of a terrible horse. He entered the area of Vrindavan with the speed of the mind, his great mane flying and his hooves digging up the earth. He began to whinny and terrify the whole forest. Krishna saw that the demon was terrifying all the residents of Vrindavan with his whinnying and his tail wheeling in the sky like a big cloud. Krishna could understand that the horse was challenging him to fight. The Lord accepted his challenge, and stood before the Keshi demon, calling him to fight. The horse then ran toward Krishna, making a horrible sound, like a roaring lion, his jaws spread wide open as if to swallow the whole sky. Keshi rushed toward the Lord with great speed and tried to trample him with his legs, which were strong, forceful, and as hard as stone. Krishna, however, immediately caught hold of his legs and thus baffled him. Krishna was somewhat angry, and thus he began to whirl the horse around. After a few rounds, he contemptuously threw him 100 yards away, just as Garuda throws a big snake. Thrown by Krishna, the horse immediately passed out. But after a little while, he regained consciousness and with great anger and force, again, rushed toward Krishna with his mouth open. As soon as Keshi reached him, Krishna pushed his left arm within the horse's mouth, and it looked as though a big snake had entered a hole in a field. The horse felt great pain because Krishna's arm felt to him like a hot iron rod. Immediately his teeth fell out. Krishna's arm within the mouth of the horse at once began to expand, and Keshi's throat choked up. As the great horse suffocated, perspiration appeared on his body, and he threw his legs hither and thither. As his last breath came, his eyeballs bulged in their sockets, and he passed, stool and urine, simultaneously. Thus the vital force of his life expired. When the horse was dead, his mouth became loose, and Krishna could extract his arm without difficulty. He did not feel any surprise that the Keshi demon was killed so easily, but the demigods in the sky were amazed, and out of their great appreciation, they offered Krishna greetings by showering flowers. Krishna, Keshi demon?
The feeling that I am a great devotee and spiritual master.
Pride, spiritual pride.
Mm.
After this incident, Narada Muni, the greatest of all devotees, came to see Krishna in a solitary place and began to talk with him. My dear Lord Krishna, he said, you are the unlimited supersoul, the supreme controller of all mystic powers, the Lord of the whole universe, the all-pervading personality of Godhead. You are the resting place of the cosmic manifestation, the master of all the devotees and the Lord of everyone. My dear Lord, as the supersoul of all living entities, you remain concealed within their hearts, exactly as fire remains concealed in every piece of fuel. You are the witness of all the activities of the living entities, and you are the supreme controller within their hearts. You are self-sufficient. Before the creation, you existed, and by your energy, you have created all the material elements. According to your perfect plan, this material world is created by the interaction of the modes of nature, and by you it is maintained and annihilated. Although you are unaffected by all these activities, you are the supreme controller eternally. My dear Lord, you have advented yourself on the surface of this earth just to kill all the so-called kings who are actually demons. These hobgoblins are cheating people in the dress of the princely order. You have advented yourself to fulfill your own statement that you come within this material world just to protect the principles of religion and annihilate unwanted miscreants. My dear Lord, I am therefore sure that the day after tomorrow, I shall see demons like Chanura, Mushtaka, and the other wrestlers and elephants, as well as Kamsa himself, killed by you. I shall see this with my own eyes. After this, I shall be able to see the killing of other demons like Shankha, Yavana, Mura, and Narakasura. I shall also see how you take away the Parijata flower from the kingdom of heaven, and how you defeat the king of heaven himself. My dear Lord, Narada Muni continued, I shall then be able to see how you marry princesses, the daughters of chivalrous kings, by paying the price of Kshatriya strength. Whenever a Kshatriya wants to marry a very beautiful and qualified daughter of a great king, he must fight his competitors and emerge victorious. Then he is given the hand of the princess in charity. I shall also see how you save King Nriga from a hellish condition, said Narada Muni. This you shall enact in Dvarka. I shall also be able to see how you get your wife and the Syamantaka jewel, and how you save the son of a Brahmana from death, after he has already been transferred to another planet. After this, I will be able to see you kill the Paundraka demon and burn to ashes the kingdom of Kashi. I will see how you kill the king of Chedi and Dantavakra during the great sacrifice of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Besides all this, it will be possible for me to see many other chivalrous activities while you remain in Dvarka. And all these activities performed by your grace will be sung by great poets throughout the world. At the battle of Kurukshetra, you will take part as the chariot driver of your friend Arjuna, and as the invincible death incarnation in eternal time, you will vanquish all belligerents assembled there. I shall see a large number of military forces killed on that battlefield. My Lord, let me offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. You are situated completely in the transcendental position in perfect knowledge and bliss. You are complete in fulfilling all your desires. By exhibiting your internal potency, you have set up the influence of Maya. Your unlimited potency cannot even be measured by anyone. My dear Lord, you are the supreme controller. You are under your own internal potency, and it is simply vain to think that you are dependent on any of your creations. You have taken birth in the Yadu dynasty or the Vrishni dynasty. Your advent on the surface of the earth in your original form of eternal blissful knowledge is your own pastime. You are not dependent on anything but yourself. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto your lotus feet. After offering his respectful obeisances to Lord Krishna, Narada Muni took permission and left. Narada Muni wanted to impress upon people in general that Krishna is fully independent. His activities, such as his appearance in the family of Yadu, or his friendship with Arjuna, do not necessarily oblige him to act to enjoy their results. They are all pastimes, and for him they are all play. But for us, they are actual, tangible facts. After he had killed the Keshi demon, Krishna returned to tending the cows with his friends in the forest as though nothing had happened. Thus Krishna is eternally engaged in his transcendental activities in Vrindavana with his friends, the cowherd boys and gopis, but sometimes he exhibits the extraordinary prowess of the Supreme Personality of Godhead by killing different types of demons. Later that morning, Krishna went to play with his cowherd boyfriends on the top of Govardhana Hill. They were imitating the play of thieves and police, cops and robbers. Some of the boys became police constables and some became thieves, and some took the role of lambs. While they were thus enjoying their childhood pastimes, a demon known by the name of Vyomasura, the demon who flies in the sky, appeared on the scene. He was the son of another great demon named Maya. These demons can perform wonderful magic. Vyomasura took the part of a cowherd boy, playing as a thief, and stole many boys who were playing the parts of lambs. One after another, he took away almost all the boys and put them in the caves of the mountain, and sealed the mouths of the caves with stones. Krishna could understand the trick the demon was playing. Therefore, he caught hold of him exactly as a lion catches hold of a lamb. The demon tried to expand himself like a hill to escape arrest, but Krishna did not allow him to get out of his clutches. He was immediately thrown to the ground with great force and killed, just as an animal is killed in a slaughterhouse. After killing the Vyoma demon, Lord Krishna released all his friends from the caves of the mountain. He was then praised by his friends and by the demigods for these wonderful acts. He again returned to Vrindavan with his cows and friends. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 37th chapter of Krishna, killing the Keshi demon and Vyomasura.
Hear about him?
Yeah.
The demon in the sky, associating with thieves and other rascals, and with people who put themselves forward as avatars. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says the devotee who worships the holy name should first petition the Lord for the strength to cast out all of these. Oh, this is about all of the. Is that okay to read? This is
Yeah.
about like all of the anarthas. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says the devotee who worships the holy name should first petition the Lord for the strength to cast out all these unfavorable tendencies, and to pray thus before Lord Hari on a daily basis. By doing this regularly, the devotee's heart will eventually become purified. Sri Krishna has killed a number of demons which may arise in the kingdom of the heart. So in order to destroy these problems, a devotee must cry very humbly before the Lord and admit defeat. Then the Lord will nullify all contaminations.
Krishna, I need help. Jai, any reflections on the previous chapter? I liked how when Keshi came to kill Krishna, he was just chilling. He was standing there with his arm on the shoulder of a friend. And then it just infuriates the demons more.
Right.
And then he came for him, and Krishna just flung him away. And he had to get up and work up the nerve and courage to make another charge before Krishna threw him on the ground and broke him apart. Actually, no, he didn't. That was Urshtasur. He stuck his red hot arm in his throat and choked him by expanding it.
His teeth all fell out.
Yep. His eyes bulged from their sockets.
Fire. Yeah, for those that have been to, what is it, the Mumbai airport? When you're leaving the Mumbai airport, there's a giant statue of
Keshi?
Keshi. And like fire eyes and. Yeah.
I have a question.
Mhm.
So I know you're like, this happens, like the bull gets killed. And then you have Narada Muni coming back in and praising Krishna. And then Narada Muni kind of does his like praising and then kind of almost like future telling.
Yeah.
And then this other demon comes in. I guess I'm trying to figure out it's kind of a weird progression of a chapter. Demon killed, Narada Muni comes in, kind of does this thing, tells the future, then another demon kind of comes in, and then Krishna goes about his day. I don't not necessarily what's the significance of this Narada Muni episode, but can you talk more of even just how this chapter is laid out and
Well, we know that Narada just instigated with Kamsa. And he's kind of in the inner circle, Narada Muni. He's an eternal associate. Narada Muni's body is a spiritual body, doesn't have a material body. He exists in a body that's capable of entering any material or spiritual planet. He can approach the Lord, actually, and see him, and he knows who he is. And so he has his reasons for instigating Krishna's pastimes by, awakening Kamsa's anger and everything, and letting him have some knowledge. Some of the reasons we've heard, it brings Krishna. it speeds things up, it expedites things. So yeah, as far as like why and how, like, why is it that there's this one demon, then there's Narada Muni, then there's another demon? I don't know. I think like I would probably just look into the purports. Canto 10, chapter 37. Do you want to do that?
I mean, like Norton is just such a, he's just such an, I don't even know how to like talk, you know what I mean? I don't know how to like figure him out. Like, not that we're supposed to figure him out, but he's just like so different than any other associate, I feel like, in the past times. And it's just kind of like, he pops up and then he's kind of just like, okay.
He's a great appreciator, Narada Muni.
Yeah.
We see this in a few places. He's on the outside looking in, and sometimes he's just like, wow, Krishna. And he'll actually go up to Krishna and be like, wow, just amazed. It happens later. When Krishna is in Dvarka, it's like chapter 75 or something. You find the exact chapter. I think it's titled. Chapter 69. The great sage Narada visits the different homes of Lord Krishna. Krishna is now a king, and he has several queens. Satyabhama, Rukmini, so many queens in Dvarka. And in each of their homes, Krishna is there with them. Just like at lunch with the cowherd boys, he's looking each one in the eye. In the rasa dance, he's next to each gopi. So none of the queens are feeling like they have to share him. He's entirely theirs. And so Narada enters Dvarka just to see this. And he walks in, and there's Krishna in one house, like playing with his kids. And he walks out and walks to another house, and there's Krishna, like playing chess with a friend. And then it's another one, he's like in the bathhouse splashing water on his wife. And then there's one where he's like in a council chamber drawing up, plans for battle with his counselors. And another one, he's like in a music competition or something. He's just like one after the other. And he's just looking at this, and looking at this, and looking at this, and he glorifying Krishna and amazed, and he just leaves, because it's just Narada's in that position where he's a great witness to everything, right?
That's a good term.
He's a great witness and a recounter. That's kind of his position. But I would look into the purports of chapter 37 and see what we can find out. Chapter 38, Akrura's arrival in Vrindavan. This is a really interesting chapter. This is a chapter that Srila Prabhupada advised everyone to read when they are coming into Sri Vrindavan Dham. Why? Because this is a chapter where we hear about Akrura doing that. And Akrura is a devotee. And what does he do when he's entering Vrindavan? What is his mentality? Is very educational for us. Narada Muni did not mention Krishna's killing Vyomasura, which means that he was killed on the same day as the Keshi demon. The Keshi demon was killed early in the morning, and after that the boys went to tend the cows on Govardhan Hill, and it was there that Vyomasura was killed. Both demons were killed in the morning. Akrura was requested by Kamsa to arrive in Vrindavan by evening. After receiving instruction from Kamsa, Akrura started the next morning via chariot for Vrindavan. Because Akrura himself was a great devotee of the Lord, while going to Vrindavan, he began to pray to the Lord. Devotees are always absorbed in thoughts of Krishna, and Akrura was constantly thinking of Lord Krishna's lotus eyes. He did not know what sort of pious activities he must have performed to gain an opportunity to go see Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram in Vrindavan on that day. A pure Vaishnava always thinks himself unfit to serve Krishna. So Akrura began to think within himself that he was unfit for gaining the transcendental opportunity of seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He considered himself as unfit for seeing Krishna as a materialistic person is for understanding the science of God, or as a fourth-class person, a Shudra, is for studying the Vedas. But then Akrura began to think, by the grace of Krishna, everything is possible, and thus, if he likes, I will be able to see him. Just as a blade of grass floating on the waves of a river may by chance come near the shore and gain shelter, a conditioned soul carried away by the waves of material existence may sometimes be saved by the grace of Krishna. Akrura thus thought that, if Krishna willed, he would be able to see him. Akrura considered himself most fortunate that he was going to see Krishna, whom great mystic yogis desire to see. He was confident that on that day all the sinful reactions of his past life would be finished, and his fortunate human form of life would be successful. Akrura also considered that he was very much favored by Kamsa, who was sending him to bring back Krishna and Balaram and thus enabling him to see the Lord. Akrura continued to consider that, formerly, great sages and saintly persons were liberated from the material world simply by seeing the shining nails of the lotus feet of Krishna. That Supreme Personality of Godhead has now come just like an ordinary human being, and it is my great fortune to be able to see him face to face. Akrura thought. He was thrilled with expectations of seeing the very lotus feet which are worshipped by great demigods like Brahma, Narada, and Lord Shiva, which traverse the ground of Vrindavan, and which touch the breasts of the gopis covered with tinges of kumkuma. He thought, I am so fortunate that I will be able to see those very lotus feet on this day, and certainly I shall be able to see the beautiful face of Krishna, which is marked on the forehead and the nose with tilak. And I shall also see his smile and his curling black hair. I can be sure of this opportunity because I see that today the deer are passing on my right side. The science of reading omens. He was reading an omen in the world around him, trying to find, like, is this going to work? Is this going to happen? Can I see the Lord? And he was seeing auspicious signs.
You're passing on the right is auspicious.
Evidently.
No.
Today it will be possible for me to actually see the beauty of the spiritual kingdom of Vishnu Loka because Krishna is the supreme Vishnu, and he has invented himself out of his own goodwill. He is the reservoir of all beauty, and therefore today my eyes will achieve perfection. Akrura knew beyond a doubt that Lord Krishna is the supreme Vishnu. Lord Vishnu glances over the material energy, and thus the cosmic manifestation comes into being. And although Lord Vishnu is the creator of this material world, he is free by his own energy from the influence of the material energy. By his internal potency, he can pierce the darkness of the material energy. Similar to Krishna, the original Vishnu, by expanding his internal potency, created the inhabitants of Vrindavana. In the Brahma Samhita, it is confirmed that the paraphernalia and the abode of Krishna are expansions of his internal potency. The same internal potency Krishna exhibits in Goloka Vrindavan is exhibited in the earthly Vrindavan, where he enjoys himself with his parents and in the company of his friends, the cowherd boys and gopis. By the statement of Akrura, it is clear that, since Krishna is transcendental to the modes of material nature, the inhabitants of Vrindavan who are always engaged in loving service to the Lord are also transcendental. Akrura also considered the necessity of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. He thought that the transcendental activities, instructions, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna are all for the good fortune of people in general. The people can remain constantly in Krishna consciousness by discussing the Lord's transcendental form, qualities, pastimes, and paraphernalia. By doing so, the whole universe can actually live auspiciously and advance peacefully. But without Krishna consciousness, civilization is but a decorated, dead body. A dead body may be decorated very nicely, but without consciousness, such decorations are useless. Human society without Krishna consciousness is useless and lifeless. Akrura thought, that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has now appeared as one of the descendants of the Yadu dynasty. The principles of religion are his enacted laws. Those who are abiding by such laws are demigods, and those who are not abiding are demons. He has advented himself to give protection to the demigods who are very obedient to the laws of the Supreme Lord. The demigods and the devotees of the Lord take pleasure in abiding by the laws of Krishna, and Krishna takes pleasure in giving them all sorts of protection. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, these activities of Krishna, his protecting the devotees and killing the demons, are always good for men to hear and narrate. The glorious activities of the Lord will ever increasingly be chanted by the devotees and demigods. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the spiritual master of all spiritual masters. He is the deliverer of all fallen souls and the proprietor of the three worlds. Anyone who is able to see him with eyes smeared with love of Godhead enjoys a festival of seeing. Today I shall be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who by his transcendental beauty has attracted the goddess of fortune to live with him perpetually. As soon as I arrive in Vrindavan, I will get down from this chariot and fall prostrate to offer my obeisances to the Supreme Lord, the master of material nature and all living entities. The lotus feet of Krishna are always worshipped by great mystic yogis, so I shall also worship his lotus feet and become one of his friends in Vrindavan, like the cowherd boys. When I bow down before Lord Krishna in that way, certainly he will place his fearless lotus hand on my head. His hand is offered to all conditioned souls who take shelter under his lotus feet. Krishna is the ultimate goal of life for all people who fear material existence. And certainly when I see him, he will give me the shelter of his lotus feet. I am aspiring for the touch of his lotus-like hand on my head. When that hand touched the presentations of King Indra and King Bali, these two became qualified to be lords of the universe. And when that hand touched the gopis, as they danced with Krishna in the Ras Leela, it relieved all their fatigue. In this way, Akrura expected blessings from the hand of Krishna. He knew that Indra, who is the king of heaven and the master of the three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems, was blessed by the Lord simply for his offering a little water, which Krishna accepted. Similarly, Bali Maharaj gave only 3 paces of land in charity to Vamanadeva, and he also offered a little water, which Lord Vamanadeva accepted, and thereby Bali Maharaj attained the position of Indra. When the gopis were dancing with Krishna in the rasa dance, they became fatigued, and Krishna wiped his hand, which is as fragrant as a lotus flower growing in Manasa Sarovar lake, over the pearl-like drops of perspiration on the faces of the gopis, and immediately the gopis became refreshed. Thus Akrura was expecting benediction from that supreme hand of Krishna. Krishna's hand is capable of bestowing benediction upon all kinds of men, if they take to Krishna consciousness. If one wants material happiness like that of the King of Heaven, he can derive that benediction from the hand of Krishna. If one wants liberation from the pangs of material existence, he can also get that benediction from the hand of Krishna. And if one, in pure transcendental love for Krishna, wants personal association and the touch of his transcendental body, he can also gain that benediction from his hand. Akrura was afraid, however, because he had been deputed by Kamsa, the enemy of Krishna. He thought, I am going to see Krishna as a messenger of the enemy. At that time, he thought, Krishna is in everyone's heart as the supersoul, so he must know my heart. Although Akrura was trusted by the enemy of Krishna, his heart was clear. He was a pure devotee of Krishna. He risked becoming Kamsa's deputy just to meet Krishna. He was certain that, although he was going as a representative of Kamsa, Krishna would not accept him as an enemy. Even though I'm on a sinful mission being deputed by Kamsa, when I approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I shall stand before him with all humility and folded hands. Surely he will be pleased with my devotional attitude, and maybe he will smile lovingly and look upon me, and thereby free me from all kinds of sinful reactions. I shall then be on the platform of transcendental bliss and knowledge. Since Krishna knows my heart, certainly when I approach him, he will embrace me. Not only am I a member of the Yadu dynasty, but I am his relative and an unalloyed pure devotee. By his merciful embrace, surely my body, heart, and soul will be completely cleansed of the actions and reactions of my past life. When our bodies touch, I will immediately stand up with folded hands with all humility. Certainly Krishna and Balaram will call me Akrura, uncle. And at that time, my whole life will be glorious. Unless one is recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his life cannot be successful. It is clearly stated here that one should try to be recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead by one's service and devotion, without which the human form of life is condemned. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead, is equal to everyone. He has no friends and no enemies, but he is inclined to a devotee who renders him service with devotional love. The Bhagavad Gita also declares that the Supreme Lord is responsive in proportion to the devotional service rendered by the devotee. That's Bhagavad Gita 9:29. Samaham sarvabhuteshu. I am equal. I have no friends or enemies. I am equal to all. But one who is a friend to me is a devotee. They live in me and I live in them. Akrura thought that Krishna was like the desire tree in the heavenly planets, which gives fruit according to the desire of the worshipper. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is also the source of everything. A devotee must know how to render service unto him and thus be recognized by him. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is therefore explained that one should serve both the spiritual master and Krishna simultaneously, and in that way make progress in Krishna consciousness. Service rendered to Krishna under the direction of the spiritual master is bona fide service, because the spiritual master is a manifested representative of Krishna. Sri Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur says that When one satisfies the spiritual master, he satisfies the Supreme Lord. Anyone know the Sanskrit to that? It's in the 8th verse of the Gurvashtakam. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado. Yasya prasadad nagate kutopi. Yasya prasadad bhagavat prasado. By serving that person, the Lord is pleased. It is exactly like service in a government office. One has to work under the supervision of the departmental head. If the supervisor of the department is satisfied with the service of a particular person, a promotion and increase in pay will automatically come. Akrura then thought, when Krishna and Balaram are pleased with my behavior, certainly they will take my hand, receive me within their home, and offer me all kinds of respectable hospitalities. And they will surely ask me about the activities of Kamsa and his friends. In this way, Krura, the son of Shrapalka, meditated on Sri Krishna on his journey from Mathura. He reached Vrindavan by the end of the day. Akrura passed the whole journey without knowing how long it took. When he reached Vrindavan, the sun was setting. As soon as he entered the boundary of Vrindavan, he saw the hoofprints of the cows and Lord Krishna's footprints, impressed with the signs of his souls, the flag, trident, thunderbolt, and lotus flower. These symbols on the soles of the Lord's transcendental lotus feet are worshipped by all the demigods and other great personalities throughout the 3 worlds. Upon seeing the footprints of Krishna, Akrura immediately jumped down from the chariot out of respect. He became overwhelmed with all the symptoms of ecstasy. He wept and his body trembled. Out of extreme jubilation upon seeing the dust touched by the lotus feet of Krishna, Akrura fell flat on his face and began to roll on the ground. So a note, Akrura is seeing the footprints of Krishna and he's overwhelmed with ecstasy because of that. The footprints of Krishna are very distinctive. There's a few things that are actually visible in his footprints, certain symbols like the trident and the umbrella. There's actually several symbols on the left and right lotus feet, Krishna, as well on Radharani's feet, Lord Chaitanya as well. They're in Shastra. There's specific marks that indicate they're not people of this world. Also, one little detail. One of our acharyas, probably Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, mentions, he asks theoretically, so Krishna is in Vrindavan, and Vrindavan has so many cows. How is it that Vrindavan has Krishna's footprints intact? Wouldn't these hordes of cows, herds and herds of cows, trample them? Wouldn't it be gone? And he answers his own question. He says, no, because everywhere they go, the cows carefully avoid the footprints of Krishna out of love, out of ecstasy for him. They see it and they walk around. Akrura's journey to Vrindavan is exemplary. One who intends to visit Vrindavan should follow the ideal footsteps of Akrura and always think of the pastimes and activities of the Lord. As soon as one reaches the boundary of Vrindavan, they should immediately smear the dust of Vrindavan over their body without thinking of their material position and prestige. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung in a celebrated song, Bishaya Chhariya Kobe Shuddha Hobe Mano. When my mind will be purified after leaving the contamination of material sense enjoyment, I shall be able to visit Vrindavan. Actually, one cannot go to Vrindavan by purchasing a ticket. The process of going to Vrindavan is shown by Akrura. When Akrura entered Vrindavan, he saw Krishna and Balaram engaged in supervising the milking of the cows. Krishna was dressed in yellow garments and Balaram in bluish. Akrura also saw that their eyes were exactly like the beautiful lotus flower that grows during the autumn season. He saw Krishna and Balaram in the spring of their youth. Although they had the same bodily features, Krishna was blackish in complexion, whereas Balaram was whitish. Both were the shelter of the goddess of fortune. They had well-constructed bodies, beautiful hands, and pleasing faces, and they were as strong as elephants. Now, after seeing their footprints marked with flag, trident, thunderbolt, and lotus, Akrura actually saw Krishna and Balaram face to face. Although they were the most influential personalities, they were glancing at him with smiling faces. Akrura could understand that both Krishna and Balaram had returned from tending cows in the forest. They had taken their baths and were dressed with fresh clothing and garlanded with flowers, and with necklaces made of valuable jewels. Their bodies were smeared with the pulp of sandalwood. Akrura greatly appreciated the aroma of the flowers and sandalwood and their bodily presence. He considered himself very fortunate to see Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his plenary expansion Balaram face to face, for he knew that they were the original personalities of the creation. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Krishna is the original personality of Godhead and the cause of all causes. Anyone know that verse? It's the first verse of Brahma Samhita.
Just chanting it.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. Ishvara Parama Krishna, Krishna is the supreme controller. Satchit Ananda Vigraha, he is himself his body of eternality, bliss, and knowledge. Anadir, he has no origin. Adir, he is the origin. Govinda, he is Govinda, the pleaser of the cows and the senses. Sarva Karana Karanam, he is the supreme cause of all causes.
Will you explain what the Brahma Samhita is and also share that when everybody here has chanted it?
Yeah, so the Brahma Samhita is a shastra that is, it was much longer. We only have one chapter. It's the 5th chapter that we have. The rest are not available to us. They're not present on the planet. It was found by Lord Chaitanya on his travels as a sannyasi in a South Indian temple. We found one copy of it and had it copied extensively. When he read it, he went into great ecstasy, crying and trembling. And it's actually a very beautiful shastra that begins with the verse I just said and goes into about 25 or 30 verses of very meticulous technical detail about the manifestation of the universe, the material and spiritual worlds, the role of Lord Shiva, the role of Krishna Shakti, and Brahma's birth from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and from the lotus flower from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu's navel. And Brahma's birth is followed by Brahma's bewilderment. And Brahma is approached by I forget the verse I was going to quote it, but Divya Saraswati, the divine Shakti of the Lord, who gives him a mantra to chant to realize the Lord. Tapastvang tapa etena tapasitir bhavishyati, she says. Perform divine austerity. By that austerity, you will attain all perfection. And in his meditation, on his mantra, he's given a vision of Krishna. And that vision comes forth in the form of prayers which he utters. And those prayers are famous for their meter. Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha lakshavriteshu surabhira vipalayantang lakshmi sahasrashata sambrama sevyamanam govindamari purushang tamaham bhajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda, who is, and then every verse has a different quality, different pastime, different form, different aspect of the philosophy. It's like 30 verses of that.
Does anyone recognize
Is that what you
that?
sang at your wedding?
Yeah.
We recited the first verse and all of Brahma's prayers, not the intervening philosophy. There's a few verses we skipped. Brahma's prayers, and then there's 5 verses at the end where Krishna speaks with Brahma and gives him assurance. It's very, very beautiful. It contains a whole philosophy. Srila Prabhupada is very fond of it, and he actually asked that it be recited at all fire yagyas. So at weddings, sannyas ceremonies, initiation ceremonies, you'll hear the Brahma Samhita. It's a favorite of our line. It's a favorite of Lord Chaitanya's. It's a favorite of Srila Prabhupada's. It's not really recognized much outside of our line. Although there is an extremely popular series of books called The Wheel of Time, fantasy fiction, by someone called Robert Jordan. They're like 14 books long. I mention them because it's called The Wheel of Time, and the first book is called The Eye of the World. And there's a verse in the Brahma Samhita, which was available in English translation when Robert Jordan was on the planet. He was actually very interested in Hindu theology. His books are influenced by reincarnation, karma, and different things. And it's almost certain that he read the Brahma Samhita because the verse actually contains the words, the eye of the world and the wheel of time. It's about the sun is considered to be the eye of the world, and he mounts his chariot, mounting the wheel of time, and that that sun is merely just the reflection of Krishna's glories. So Wheel of Time is probably derived from Brahmasamhita, but it's basically a Shastra that Lord Chaitanya found for us and is a little bit of a hidden gem. Maybe we can read that sometime. As stated in the Brahmasamhita, Krishna is the original personality of Godhead and the cause of all causes. Akrura could understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared personally for the welfare of his creation, to re-establish the principles of religion and to annihilate the demons. With their bodily effulgence, the brothers were dissipating all the darkness of the world, as if they were mountains of sapphire and silver. Without hesitating, Akrura immediately got down from his chariot and fell flat, just like a rod, before Krishna and Balaram. Upon touching the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he became overwhelmed with transcendental bliss. His voice choked up and he could not speak. Due to his transcendental pleasure, incessant torrents of tears fell from his eyes. He remained stunned in ecstasy as if devoid of all powers to see and speak. Lord Krishna, who was very kind to his devotees, raised Akrura with his hand and embraced him. It appeared that Lord Krishna was very pleased with Akrura. Balaram also embraced Akrura. Then the two lords took him by the hand and brought him to their sitting room, where they offered him a very nice sitting place and water for washing his feet. They also worshipped him with a suitable presentation of honey mixed with other ingredients. When Akrura was thus comfortably seated, Krishna and Balaram offered him a cow in charity, and then brought very palatable dishes, and Akrura accepted them. When Akrura finished eating, Balaram gave him betel nut and spices, as well as pulp of sandalwood, just to make him more pleased and comfortable. The Vedic system of receiving a guest was completely observed by Lord Krishna himself, to teach all others how to receive a guest at home. It is a Vedic injunction that even if a guest is an enemy, he should be well received, be received so well that he does not apprehend any danger from the host. If the host is a poor man, he should at least offer a straw mat as a sitting place and a glass of water to drink. Krishna and Balaram welcomed Akrura in a way just befitting his exalted position. After Akrura was thus properly received and seated, Nanda Maharaj, the foster father of Krishna, said, "My dear Akrura, what shall I inquire from you? I know that you are being protected by Kamsa, who is most cruel and demoniac. His protection is just like the slaughterhouse keeper's protection of animals he will kill in the future. Kamsa is so selfish that he has killed the sons of his own sister. So how can I honestly believe that he is protecting the citizens of Mathura?" This statement is most significant. If the political or executive heads of the state are simply interested in themselves, they can never look after the welfare of the citizens. That's important to remember. It's important to remember that, especially when someone gets caught up in politics, whether it's the politics of today or the politics of yesterday, or the politics of tomorrow, there's always going to be something. The problem isn't any given politician. The problem is if the political or executive heads of the state are simply interested in themselves, they can never look after the welfare of the citizens. There has to be Krishna consciousness. This is like not a left wing or right wing or any other political consideration. This is across the board condemnation of materialistic consciousness. There will always be problems as long as this is the case. As Nanda Maharaj spoke to Akrura with pleasing words, Akrura forgot all the fatigue of his day's journey from Mathura to Vrindavan. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 38th chapter of Krishna, Akrura's arrival in Vrindavan. Haribol! We did it, 3 chapters. Okay, we'll have to pause there. Any reflections or comments?
I was just thinking, just on page 281 where it said, actually, one cannot go to Vrindavan by purchasing a ticket.
Yeah.
I feel like Madhu said that so much on her trip, like you just can't just waltz in. And I
It's
just
an important part of
surprised
philosophy.
to see that here too.
Yeah, we read this chapter in the bus.
Okay, I thought so, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are. We're reading it, so we're back.
Exactly, that's true.
This is an opportunity to enter that consciousness. Vrindavan is a state of mind. It's not just a place. Yeah. So for this week, any other reflections, comments? Aaron says, "Thank you. You're welcome." Class.
I also really appreciated the line in there that from the CC saying that a devotee should serve both the spiritual master and Krishna simultaneously, and in that way make progress in Krishna consciousness. And not by by that service, whether it is to spiritual master, formally or informally, or to other devotees, that is serving Krishna.
Yeah.
And that is, yes, we have our rules, we have our regulations, we have our prayers and our practice, and seva is such a, and we have sangha, right? And seva is such a huge element of advancement in Krishna consciousness, and doing it in that selfless way without needing anything in return.
Yeah, the point of the rules and regulations is to please.
Mhm.
Really, they're not like abstractions.
Right.
They're associated with persons, devotees of Krishna and Krishna himself. Yeah.
And they bring us more into a state where a consciousness where we're more sattvic, and therefore we're more readily able to access a place of even wanting to do seva or being
Yeah.
capable of doing seva, and to see God everywhere and everything.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
I also liked, I really liked how Srila Prabhupada said that a pure devotee always considers himself unfit for seeing Krishna.
Yeah.
It's not a cheap thing for them. They're always like, who, me? I'm not a devotee. Oh, I know real devotees, but I'm not a real, I'm just their devotee. I'm a devotee of the devotees. I don't know. How can I see Krishna? Akrura had that, like, he was like flabbergasted by the opportunity. But then he thought, well, I mean, the grass can somehow find the bank. A blade of grass floating in the river, Krishna's mercy can make it possible. Even a person like me can see him if he wants. So
It didn't seem like he was entering Vrindavan with what he was sent to do, as his heart was very different than
yeah,
what he was sent to do by Kamsa.
and he was trusting that Krishna would see that. And of course, Krishna greeted him warmly because Krishna could see who he is and how he feels, what his priorities are. Yeah, sincerity is, again, unmistakable and irreplaceable. He was the opposite of, a devotee externally. He was sent there to like facilitate Krishna being murdered. But Krishna could see that his actual position was service, was love. Yeah. So this week, let's please read chapters 36 to 38, as we did. And please reflect in the WhatsApp chat. We missed having reflections this week. There weren't as many.
Mhm.
Please reflect on a couple of good topics. You can either reflect on this principle of service in separation, what that's like. What is that? What comes up for you around that? Or this meditation of entering Vrindavan. What would you do if you had an impending darshan with the Lord? You're going to see the Lord, right? What did you learn from that chapter?
Mhm.
How to actually approach the Lord?
Does Amy have any reflections?
Not at this moment.
Stay tuned. Okay.
Mhm.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai,
Shri Krishna Govinda ki jai.
jai,
Srimad Bhagavatam Krishna book. Brahma Samhita ki jai.
jai.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna to our YouTube crew. We have a larger than usual YouTube crew today.
Yeah.
We love you. See you soon.
Logical, but too busy.
Ciao. Pritana Bhavani Vivashna Vinamana. Go Ranga.
People.